Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachariye Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Nidutari
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadini.
Krishna Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om. Vishnu Pad Paramhansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Saraswati Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Naam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Jamuna Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Shomabeta Bhaktavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Prem Anande.
Hari Hari Bo.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari Bhava. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pucharine Mere Vishesh Shri Guru Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Vela Dela Dadai. Hiranya Kashipur Bakshaha.
Hiranya Kashipur Bakshaha.
Shila Tankana Kalaye.
Shila Tankana Kalaye.
Ito Nrisingha Parato Nrisingho.
Ito Nrisingha Parato Nrisingho.
Jato Jato Jamitato Nrisingha.
Yato Yato Yamitato Nrisingho.
Bahir Nrisingho Hridaye Nrisingho.
Bahir Nrisingho Hridaye.
Nrisinghamadin Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasinghamadin Sharanam Prapadye.
Nrisinghamadin Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasinghamadin Sharanam Prapadye.
Makala Kamala Boy Nata Adbhuta Shringa Dudita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshava Drita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Vatsala Asok Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubrina Ishavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Kamala Hare Nakham Adbhuta Shringa Dolita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshava Drita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubrina Ishavadrita Narahari Rupa Jagadisha Hare Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare. We sing Bhagwan.
Hare Krishna devotees, welcome all of you that have joined us via Zoom, via our YouTube channel, to our virtual Sunday Feast program. And to thank Vishnu Prabhu for leading us in a wonderful kirtan for the pleasure of their lordships, Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and Shri Radha Sharad Bihari. Tonight we are going to continue our study of the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to, the last couple of weeks, we've been giving an overview, setting the scene for the Bhagavad Gita, giving some background from the Mahabharata and the events leading up to this great battle in which the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna was spoken. Tonight, His Grace Vishnu Prabhu will continue this, and I believe he's going to go through the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita written by Srila Prabhupada. So just a minute, we'll do a quick darshan for those that have joined. And then we'll the class. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. And most merciful lordships, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki,
Jai.
and Shri Shrimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Thanks. Shri Jagannath, Shri Baladev, Shrimati Subhadra Maharani ki.
Jai.
And most beautiful lordship, Shri Shri Radha Sharat Bihari ki.
Jai.
Okay, so I'd like to hand it over to Vishnu Vallarapu. I want to just say something really quickly. I mean, it's quite remarkable, the service that certain devotees actually perform. We look at some of the services that are done, chanting, preaching, and also cooking for their lordships. And today, Vishnu Vallarapu has done, he was engaged in all three of these services. He led the kirtan, he helped cook the feast, and now he's going to give the class. So we're very grateful that he's with us, being able to speak to us today. So please give him your attention as we go through. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhus. Nice to see you all. We do the Simino.
You're going to see in a second.
Okay. I see Ram Shyam, I see Mother Vindhyavali, and etc. Hare Krishna. Vatsala Asok is there. Who's Moto G7 Power? You know who that is?
Either Chatterjee or Bhakta Charles,
Oh, okay.
or it could be someone else.
Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunj Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha
Girivaradari
Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajana
Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtottara Sata Shishimar His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai,
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai,
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai,
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai,
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय।
Jai,
श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरी गोवर्धन की जय।
Jai,
वृंदावन धाम की जय।
Jai,
द्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय।
Jai,
गंगा माई की जय।
Jai,
जमुना माई की जय।
Jai,
तुलसी देवी की जय।
Jai,
भक्ति देवी की जय।
Jai,
श्रमवेता भक्त वृंद की जय।
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna,
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna,
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bo.
Hari.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirbishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're Hare Krishna. We're continuing our study and appreciation of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We've looked at the circumstances leading up to the speaking of the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where Lord Krishna was there with his friend and devotee Arjuna. We looked at some of the initial verses. I thought we'd backtrack just a little bit and because the importance of the Bhagavad Gita is so much that we can look at Srila Prabhupada's introduction, which is, you have any idea how long that introduction is? 30 pages.
29 pages.
Yeah, 29, 30, yeah, if you add that last page. Quite long, but it's quite pertinent. And then there's some verses at the end of this introduction that you might know. They were written by Sripad Shankaracharya, and I thought we could chant a couple of those verses in honor of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord's speaking Bhagavad Gita, which is coming up on the 25th. That's just in 12 days from now. So it goes, Sarvapani Shado Gavo, Dogta Gopalanandana, Parto Vatsa Shudhir Bhokta, Dugdham Gitamratang Mahat. Maybe you know this. Sarvopanishado Gavo means this, the Bhagavad Gita of all the Upanishads, this is the cow. Gavo means cow. So it's the special, the cow gives the milk. The Gogdogopalanandana, and the cowherd boy who's none other than Gopalanandana, Krishna. Krishna is the cow. So the Bhagavad Gita is the cow. I mean, Sarvopanishado Gavo, Dogdogopalanandana, Parto Vatso Shudhir Bhokta, and the calf that comes near is who? Who's the calf? Parto Vatso Shudhir. Arjuna. Because those who know about dairy cows, the cow will give the milk, but especially if the cow comes near, what happens? The calf comes near, what happens? The calf gives more milk. Naturally, because of their affection for the calf. Parto Vatso Shudhir, Dugdham Gitamratam Mahat. And the Amrita, that the milk is the Bhagavad Gita itself, the Amrita, that's appreciated by the Mahat, by the devotees. Dugdha means milk. Gitamrita, that nectar of Gita. Then the last verse goes like this. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gita. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gita. Have you heard this? Ekam, there's one Shastra. Shankaracharya, Sripad Shankaracharya. Ekam Shastram. What is that Shastra? Devaki Putra Gita. The Gita, there are different Gitas, but the Gita spoken by the son of Devaki. Who's the son of Devaki? Yeah. Eko Devo, Devaki Putra Deva. And there's one, Eko means one, Eko Devo, one God, Devaki Putra Deva, that's the son of Devaki. Eko Mantras, what is the mantra? Eko, there's one mantra, Tasya Namami Yani. And there's one mantra, the chant, his name is the mantra to chant. Eko Mantras, Tasya Namani Yani. And Karma Pyekam, and there's one thing to do. Tasya Devasya Seva. And one thing to do is to serve Devaki Putra. So this is a very important consideration. Oh, somebody's talking. Okay.
Hari, there's no problem.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. So in the beginning of the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says that there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita in English as well as other languages. And so then why the need for another edition? Because a lady asked him, well, why are you writing this Bhagavad Gita? Because she wanted him to recommend a particular version of Bhagavad Gita. And perhaps some of you have read various versions of Bhagavad Gita. I know I did. I tried to understand Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada replied that actually there was none that he could recommend, because in each one of those versions, the author or the writer of the version of Bhagavad Gita was giving their own opinion. They had their own ideas of and they weren't giving the information from Krishna as it is. So this was a problem. Using Bhagavad Gita for putting forth their own ideas instead of being a transparent via medium to Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example of like, if you have some sickness and you go to the doctor and the doctor is going to prescribe you some medicine. So then if when the doctor prescribes medicine, you say, well, oh, this medicine is very good. Let me take it all at once. Right? You do that, right? You do that. No, yeah. Or, or it says, you have to take all of them. You have to keep taking, because if you don't take all of them, then whatever the infection is might come back. But then you say, no, that's okay. Or it says, don't take this medicine while you're driving. But you think, oh, that's okay. Or you think, well, this medicine, I'll just take a half dose. All those things. No, but those things, they don't work because you have to take the medicine according to the direction of the physician. It's an analogy. If you want it to be effective, if you want it to work. So if you want the Bhagavad Gita to be effective and to understand the Bhagavad Gita, it has to be received as given by the speaker, who is known as Bhagavan, Krishna. So sometimes Bhagavan can be indicating a powerful person. For example, sometimes Bhagavan is used to indicate Indra or Narad Muni. But according to context and according to understanding, all great authorities in spiritual life, they accept Bhagavan, in this case, Krishna, to mean the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Asambodha, known as greater than or equal to him. And therefore, the knowledge that's given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so valuable because it's coming from a perfect person. And if a perfect person gives you knowledge, then you can know. Everyone has so many different speculations. But if a person who's in knowledge gives you the information, then you can know very well. That's the system. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna in the 4th chapter very succinctly gives the prescription about how we can understand and how it's possible for us to understand Bhagavad Gita, how to do that. That's the prescription. So he says, you know what, in the 4th chapter, beginning, Ram Shyam knows.
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayan vidvan manave praha manu ikshvakave pavit. Then he says, evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu sakalene hamuhata yogunashta parantapa. The science that I'm teaching you, Arjun, is understood it's understood in the disciplic succession called parampara. Now, somebody could say, well, in the beginning we talked about how Srila Prabhupada said, well, there's really no version that seems to be accurately representing Krishna's real purpose in speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So he's just promoting his own version of Bhagavad Gita. Well, no, because this Bhagavad Gita is coming down in a chain of disciplic succession without change from spiritual master to disciple from time immemorial, beginning from Krishna. So this is not Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, but it's Krishna's Bhagavad Gita that's been passed down unchanged to us today. And that's the method that Lord Krishna says that you can understand the Bhagavad Gita properly. Therefore, the verse is there. Sampradaya vihinaye mantraste nashpala mata. If you don't get your mantras and your tantras from your what you're supposed to say, what you're supposed to do from the sampradaya, spiritual master, who's a guru who's coming in the sampradaya, it will not bear fruit. So that's the first part, that the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is coming, not just somebody made it up at some point. If you're not in disciplic succession, then it's somebody at some point made up that information, right? And there's another point. There's different kinds of transcendentalists. There's different kinds of spiritualists. There's the Gyanis, the Yogis, and the Bhaktas. And they're all striving for spiritual advancement. The Gyanis spend most of their attention to the impersonal Brahman. The Yogis, they're more interested in understanding the Paramatma and developing mystic yogic powers. But the Bhakta is that person who's interested in understanding Krishna and in serving him. So these three kinds of transcendentalists are there, and they all have their disciplic succession. They can have their disciplic succession. But Krishna says again, Sa evayam maya tedya bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. It's because not only are you in disciplic succession, but because you're bhakta, my devotee, sakha, my friend, therefore you can understand. Now this is very practical. It's very practical. If you want to go see an important person, a very important person, and you call him up on the phone and say, hey, I'd like to meet Joe Biden. I say, well, who are you? Who are you? And what is your purpose in meeting me? Isn't it? But if you're dear to them, if you're interested in helping them and doing work for them, then they might be interested. So Krishna says, because you're my devotee as well as my friend, therefore you are qualified to understand that. Now this is given all throughout Vedic literature. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma says, Advaitam, Achutam, Anadim, Anantarupam, Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovinam cha. The Lord, he said that Krishna is non-dual, Advaitam, Achutam, never falls down, Anadi, beginningless, Anantarupam, he has unlimited forms, Adyam, but he's the original, Purana Purusham, the oldest person, the oldest, Navayovanam cha, but always a fresh youth, Navayovanam cha. So this is seems contradictory. Then he says, Vedeshu Dullabam, but by study of the Vedas, he's very difficult to approach. Adulabam, but not difficult, Atma Bhakto, by devotional service or devotion of the soul. So Krishna is saying there, in Srila Prabhupada is pointing out how Krishna's prescription is, like the doctor prescribing the medicine, the prescription is that the information, the knowledge should be coming in disciplic succession of devotees, not the other kind of transcendentalists, devotees. So, and every person, every one of us has an eternal relationship with Krishna. Every single one. Somebody may have a passive relationship, it's called Shantaras. Someone may have a active relationship called Dasyaras. Some of us may have the relationship with God as friend, and someone may have the relationship with God as seeing God as their child or as their lover. 5 natural, eternal relationships are there. And in the material world, those relationships are reflected. But the thing is, in this world, those relationships are temporary and they're mixed with all kinds of disturbances. But the relationship that we have with Krishna in devotional service is the perfection of our existence, if we can begin to understand that. It's called Swarup Siddhi. Swarup Siddhi. So that's how Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita through disciplic succession. And Lord Krishna chose Arjuna not because he was a scholar, Yeah, he could have been a scholar. He wasn't even a Brahmin. He was a family man, and he had kids, and he was working. He was a working person. And still, Krishna chose him to hear Bhagavad Gita in order to start a new disciplic succession, because apparently the succession had been broken, at least among the kings. Because you had, like we've explained, there's Duryodhana and those, they've misunderstood and gotten deviated from the real path of leading the people astray. Usually people follow the leaders, and if the leader becomes corrupt, then everybody becomes corrupt. That's the problem. If they want to be corrupt, then it's a big problem. So Lord Krishna took special care with the leaders of society, specifically Arjuna in this case, to reinforce the teachings of Bhagavad Gita so that it would be understood and that people could be able to follow it properly, apply it in their lives. So in Bhagavad Gita, there are five subject matters that are covered. You know these things? The 5 subject matters that are covered in Bhagavad Gita.
Soul, super soul. Soul, super soul, nature, karma, and soul, super soul, nature, karma.
You got 4. Yeah, there's Ishwara is the first one.
Ishwara.
It is the Supreme Lord. Okay? So this is not a sectarian idea. The sectarian idea means, you gotta follow Hinduism, you gotta follow Christianity, you gotta follow Islam. No. These are just everybody, any religion, there's a conception of Ishwara, God, the supreme controller. So Bhagavad Gita gives us some detailed information about the nature of the controller, Ishwara, Bhagavan. Then, as you said, the jiva, the living entity. Who is the living? Who are we? The whole point of Vedic knowledge, Vedic information, is that in the human form of life, it's said that without questioning and trying to understand, why are we in a situation where we're threatened with non-existence? Why are you in this situation? Why are we here that we're threatened with death, even though on the spiritual level that we're said to be eternal, but here we are faced with death, old age, disease. Why is that? So the proper student of Bhagavad Gita is that person who asks, why am I in this situation? And is there any way out of it? That's called Brahma Jigyasa. And according to the Vedic view, that all of one's life's activities are a failure if one doesn't come to ask this question. Because one will continue to go into the cycle of birth and death, one time after another, sometimes being a demigod, sometimes being an animal or an insect or a tree. So the human life is specifically meant for coming to this point of questioning, how can I get out of this predicament of birth and death? Of course, that's not well known in society. Prahlad Maharaj said, Nate vidu svartakatim hi Vishnu. People in general, we don't realize that our real purpose, our real important purpose in life is to satisfy the Lord Vishnu. Durashaya je bahirartamanina. And unfortunately, we've been taking shelter of illusory shelters where people will think this will make us happy. We think that'll make us happy, but actually, in the end, the only thing happens is we all become disappointed and fall in a ditch. So, Jiva, Ishwara and Jiva. Ishwara means the supreme controller, and Jiva we're also controllers, but little tiny controllers, because Krishna is the supreme controller, and we're part and parcel, just like a drop of seawater has the same chemical composition of the sea. So in the same way, we have the same qualities of Krishna, but in minute quantity. He is the supreme controller, and we are subordinate controllers, but we are controlled by the supreme controller. The idea that we are free in the conditioned state is a mistake. How are we free? We have to eat. It's not our choice. We grow old. It's not our choice. If it's cold outside, we get uncomfortable. If it's too hot, we get uncomfortable. So many requirements we have. We're not swarat like Krishna. We are controlled. We're subordinate controllers. We have a little bit of controlling ability, but not to the level of Krishna. So Ishvara, Jiva, then Prakriti, this material and nature, these three things. The Jiva is also considered Prakriti, means controlled and or subordinate. And there's two kinds of Prakriti, Apara and Para Prakriti. Apara means lower nature, unconscious nature, this material nature, and Para means the higher nature. So there's two kinds of Prakriti. The Jiva, us, we're the higher nature. Why? Because we have consciousness. But our consciousness and the consciousness of God are always different. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he is conscious of all bodies, whereas we're only conscious of our body. That's the difference between ourselves and God. We can never be conscious of all bodies. That's God's awareness. But we can be aware of our body. Nityo, Nityanam, Chetanas, Chetananam. There's one supreme eternal, and there's many unlimited subordinate eternals. There's one supreme consciousness and many subordinate consciousness. Eko bahunam jo vidadati kaman. And that one supreme consciousness, that one supreme eternal, is supplying all the needs. Kaman means your needs for all the other subordinate eternals and consciousnesses. So there's para prakriti, the living entity, and apara prakriti, the subordinate, the material energy. And Krishna says about that also, Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. That I am the controller of this material energy. There are three modes of nature, Rajo, Sattva, and Tamogun. And when those material natures, the modes of material nature combine with Kala, activities take place. So Ishvara, Jiva, material nature, time, Kala. Krishna says, Kala sarvaharashchaham. Kala sarvaharashchaham means I am time and I take everything away. You say, at a certain point in our lives, it will come to the point where we'll say it's time for our leaving this body. And we'll say, well, wait a minute, I have a few things to do, a few things more to do. But by the influence of time, we can't do that. Right away, we have to leave. Every single person has to do that. Time takes away everything. And that's the fourth item is time, which is a manifestation, an impersonal manifestation of the Lord. And then the last one is activities. Yeah. And this is really, Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita breaks down activities into very carefully to help us understand what kind of activity leads to liberation and what type of activity will keep you in the same position and what type of activity will bring you down to a lower consciousness. These are important things to know. So generally speaking, when we're in this material world, we get entangled in the actions and reactions of our karma. And just like you're entangled in a big net, the more you struggle, it gets harder and harder to get out. So Lord Krishna gives us enlightenment about how to act in ways that will bring us to a close, to close out our struggle with material nature, karma, activities. So of these things, the Ishvara, Jiva, material nature, and time are eternal. Karma can be changed. your karma can change. It might take a long time to change it. And in order to change it, it's important to get the help of Lord Krishna, who's the superintendent of all this karma. But generally speaking, we don't change it. Lord Brahma said, Yastvindra gopa matavendra mahosva karma bandhanu rupa palabhajan matanoti. He said, there's a little tiny insect called Indragopa. There's the chief of the insects. And there's Indra, the king of heaven. Svargalok, he's the king of heaven, big guy. And from that little insect, the little insect, important insect, to the king of heaven, every single person is enjoying and suffering the results of their karma. Every single person, you can't get away from it. It's like in the examples given in Vedic literature of there might be thousands of cows, and each cow might have a calf, and in the middle of that herd, one calf will be able to find its mother among thousands of cows. That's how your karma will find you. And sometimes we think, oh, we'll make an arrangement so that our karma will become, we want to have only good karma, good results, and we try to avoid bad results. Well, just like good results, bad results come of their own accord. Nobody tries to have a car accident, or rarely anyway. But those things happen of their own accord. Similarly, material happiness will come of its own accord. Distress and happiness are ordained by our karma. There's an example, there's a saying in Bengal that, what's gobar? What is gobar?
Yeah, cow dung.
Or is cow dung.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you take cow dung and you dry it and you put it in, you use it for fuel, burn it in the fire. So but there's wet cow dung and dry cow dung. So the wet cow, that's a Bengali saying, the wet cow dung is laughing at the dry cow dung, seeing that it's being burned in the fire. Ha ha, you're getting burned in the fire, just see. But the wet cow dung doesn't, in a few days, the wet cow dung will be dry again and it'll be in the fire. That's our lives. That's our life. So those 5 things are there. Karma. We said that material nature is eternal, but it's eternal not in its manifestations, but in its energy. The manifestations will change. There will be something will be made of an iron in a big building, and that same iron will be later used for something else when that big building collapses after 50 or 100 or 1,000 years, when it rusts away. But so the manifestations of the material energy are temporary, but the material energy itself is eternal. Those are the things. So 5 items. These are all of them are very important pieces of understanding to understand what is our position within this material world and what should we do with our lives. Since we have the opportunity to talk about it, well, let's think about what we can do with our lives to make the best use of a bad bargain with this material body. So this is Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's explaining these things. So that's the first half of the 30 pages of the introduction. And I thought we'd do the second half next week. So if there's any statements or questions or comments, anything, we'll talk some more.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Was that Vatsala?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.
My humble pranam to you. Prabhu, you said material energy is eternal.
Yeah.
I don't get the point. How can that be eternal, material?
Because it's created by Krishna within this world. Even after the destruction of the material universe, there's something called the Mahatattva. The Mahatattva is a cloud in the spiritual sky, and sometimes that cloud manifests when it's glanced upon by Mahavishnu in the process of creating many universes. But it's always there. So the particular, like here we have a table. So this table isn't eternal. It may be, certain things will last longer than others, but the energy making up the table is never created or destroyed. It's always there.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Nice, Prabhuji. I don't have question, but just wanted to comment nicely you went through the Gita Mahatmya by Madhvacharya. So he was impersonalist and talked about the Krishna, nicely about the Krishna is the supreme personality to worship, and
Yes.
About then parampara system also, how why we are following. So Gita as it is, as Prabhupada Maharaj commented.
Srila Prabhupada described it like if there's a ripe fruit on the top of the tree and you want to get it, the best way to do it is, it's passed down from one person to the other person. Maybe you know about this because they have mango trees like that. If you drop the mango tree all the way from up there to your hand, it goes splat. You could say it's a ripe mango. So similarly, the information, the knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita has to be carefully passed down from spiritual master to disciple without change, very carefully. So Srila Prabhupada would often warn us. He said, don't manufacture anything. Don't manufacture anything. That he created, he made up. No. This is something that's very, very carefully been brought down through the disciplic succession and given to you. And our job is just to be a peon. There's like a letter post they say it, peon, post peon. Yeah, you're just a letter carrier. You got the information, you deliver it to somebody without adding your spin or taking something out. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Shyam, Hare Krishna. Hari. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
So we should have a short, after the kirtan, after the class, we should have a short kirtan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could maybe mention real quickly, we'll be starting a new book.
Oh, okay. Oh, on Thursday, we study the life and activities and teachings of Srila Prabhupada. So this Thursday, we're starting. Actually, I was thinking about this. Thought maybe we would. Okay, we'll be starting a new book this Thursday. Yeah, the one by Mother Jamuna. But so Mother Vindyavali is there. I see her all the way in California. Is that right?
Yes, San Jose.
San Jose. So we'll sing Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna that she asked for. Because we were doing the kirtan, and before and after kirtans, before and after any other services, we were supposed to do kirtan. So we'll take a little bit.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Jai Radhe Jai Krishna Jai Vrindavan
Jaya Radhe Jaya
Krishna.
Jaya Vrindavan
Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madan Mohan.
Shri Govinda Gopinatha
Madana
Madan.
Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan.
Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Govardhan.
Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan.
Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan.
Shri Shoda Jai Jai Gopaga.
Nanda Soda
Soda Jaya
Jaya
Jaya Gopagan.
Sri Damadi Jaya Jayo Dhenu Vatsagan.
Idamadi Jaya Jaya Dhenu
Vatsaga
Jai Vrishabhanu Jai Kirtida Sundari.
Jaya
Bhanu
Vrishabhanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari.
Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Abhira Nagari.
Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Abhiranagari.
Jai Jaya Gopeshwara Vrindavanamaj.
Jaya Jaya Gopeswara Vrindavanamaj.
Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakkavatu Dvijaraj.
Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakha Batu
Hey Ram Tata Jai Rohini Nandan Jai
Rama
Jai Rohini
Rohini Nanda
Nandan.
Jayo Jayo Vrinda Varabasi Jata Jam.
Jaya
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 Vrindavan
Jata
Jai Dvija Patni Jai Naga Kanyagam.
Jaya Dvija Patni Jaya
Jaya
Nagakanya
Bhakti te jahara pailo Govinda chara.
तेजारा पैलो
गोविंद जय
श्री रसमंडल जय जय राधा श्याम
रसा मंडला जय जय राधा श्याम
जय जय रास लीला सर्व मनोरम
जय जय रस लीला सर्व
मनोरम
जय जय उज्ज्वला रस सर्वरस
जय जय जल रसा सर्वरसार
पर किया भावे जहाँ ब्रजेते प्रचार
परचिया भावे जहाँ भजते प्रचार
श्री जानव पाद पद्म कोरिय स्मरण
ज्ञान पाद पद्म
दीना कृष्ण दास तोहे नाम संकीर्तन
दीना कृष्ण दास तुहे नाम
राधे गोविंद जय राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद जय राधे
Radhe Govind
गोविंद
Jaya, Radhe
राधे
Hare
गोविंद
Govind Jaya.
राधे
Radhe
गोविंद जय राधे
राधे गोविंद जय राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद जय राधे
राधे गोविंद जय
Jaya,
राधे
Radhe
गोविंद
Govind
जय
Jaya,
राधे
Radhe
गोविंद
Govind
जय
Jaya,
राधे
राधे गोविंद जय
Radhe
राधे गोविंद
Govind Jaya.
राधे गोविंद जय राधे
Radhe Govind
जय
Jaya,
जय
Radhe
राधे
Govind
गोविंद
Jaya,
जय
Radhe
राधे
Govind
गोविंद
Jaya,
जय राधे
कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare
कृष्ण
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
कृष्ण
Krishna,
कृष्ण
Krishna
कृष्ण
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
राम
Rama
राम
Rama,
हरे
Hare
हरे
कृष्णा
Hare.
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे
Hare
कृष्णा
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
कृष्णा
Krishna,
कृष्ण
Krishna
कृष्णा
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama, Rama Rama,
हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की
Jai.
जय
हरि
Thank you.
बोल
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol,
thank
Hari
you
Bol,
thank you
Hari Bol.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
thank you,
see you
thank you.
all nice to see you all Hare
Thank you,
Krishna
Prabhu.
thank you very
Thank you, everybody.
much. Very much, Prabhu.
Hare
Nicely.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
वंशकर्तृभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णवा वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Jai. Hare Krishna to everybody. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Prabhu for leading us to that wonderful introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. Couple quick announcements. I did want to thank our Sunday feast sponsor this evening. Even though we're virtual, we're still getting overwhelming participation and contributions from our members, and we're very grateful for that. We're trying to keep as many of the programs that we have even pre-COVID going on during COVID. So that includes the Sunday feast. It's being sponsored, it's being cooked, offered, and distributed to the devotees. Maybe a little differently, but it's still going on. So this week, the Sunday feast sponsor was from Krishna and Shushma Saini on behalf of their daughter Krishna's birthday. So I asked the assembled devotees to please offer your blessings to her by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra one time on her behalf. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As Vishnu Prabhu had mentioned, on Thursday evening, there's a book study on the life of Srila Prabhupada in books that were written by his close disciples. This Thursday, we're going to be beginning a new book. So it's a great time if you ever wanted to join and hear what this is about. This is a good jump-in point for you. Also, throughout the week, every morning, starting at 7:50, we have Srimad Bhagavatam class. A wonderful way to start your day, get connected. This is something Srila Prabhupada had actually instructed us. He said there should be hearing in the morning and hearing in the evening, and then service throughout the day. So they called it the ISKCON sandwich. So the Srimad Bhagavatam class is an essential part of the day. So please join us for that on the same Zoom channel at 7:50. I also wanted to mention that now that we're in December, we are in the Bhagavad Gita month. This is the month in which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. We'll be celebrating the actual day, Gita Jayanti, on December 25th. More details to come on that. But throughout the month, the focus has been on getting these Bhagavad Gitas into as many people's hands who don't have them as possible. And one way that you can help out doing that is by sponsoring or purchasing Bhagavad Gitas. Now, with those Bhagavad Gitas, you can actually hand them to your neighbors and give them away, or you can give them to the temple. And the temple has a couple different ministries that we do. One is the Motel Gita ministry, in which we actively reach out to hotels and motels in the tri-state area and ask them to take one of our Bhagavad Gitas. Sometimes they purchase them themselves, sometimes they don't purchase them. So you can purchase them and they can be then placed in the motels. If you go to most of the motels and hotels around the country, you'll see that there is a Bible in the drawer. And you open up the drawer where they have, you'll find a Bible. We want it so that everywhere you go in this area, you'll open up a drawer and you'll see a Bible, but then you'll also see a Bhagavad Gita as well. So if you're interested in helping out with that, you can sponsor a case of Bhagavad Gitas and it will go to that. Also, we have a prison ministry. So we want to make sure that the prisons, people that have gone into, fallen into hard times, they get an opportunity to understand what life is truly about and how to reform themselves through the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. So you can give to that. Also, you can just give it so that it can be distributed to people that come to the temple that don't have a Bhagavad Gita. So different ways you can get involved. It's $108 per case. I think there's 16 books in a case. Right now we have a goal in Philadelphia. We're halfway to that goal, and we would like to exceed that goal. And with your help, we can do so. So spread the word, and if you haven't participated yourself, please consider doing so. All right, with that, we hope to see you here throughout the week. We have Darshan that is open. Tonight on Sunday, we're open from now 6 o'clock until 7:15, and throughout the week from 6:30 to 8 o'clock in the evening. One last announcement is that the milk we usually get from Gita Nagari is not being delivered on Sunday. They had difficulty with their pasteurizer, it broke down. It's being fixed tomorrow from what I hear, and I believe the milk will be distributed to Philadelphia on Tuesday. Now, there is if you're getting milk, you should be on the WhatsApp group. Just wanted to let people know that the milk isn't coming tonight, and will be available later in the week. Mother Sita will be reaching out, I believe, to everybody that's participating to let them know exactly the details. Okay, that's all from me, and thank you all for tuning in, and we hope to see you. We hope to see you throughout our week in our programs. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Panchakopatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.